Hi, welcome back to episode 5 of Digestive Mindfulness. I'm going to share a yin yoga practice with you today, slightly restorative yin, so we'll be using some props to help us really focus on relaxing into our poses. And yin yoga is a much slower practice. We still work with a sequence of postures, but instead of in practice 3, where we worked with that flow to kind of create a moving meditation, connecting to body and breath, it's a much slower, much more static flow. And it's an opportunity. Some people think that it's a lot easier because you're sitting still, but actually it can be quite challenging because you are invited to really listen into your body and also listen into your mind. And for some people that can be quite a lot, especially if you're struggling with anxieties, stress, pain in the body. So as I always say, come to this practice with an open mind, and if at any point it's a lot, you can come away and try the practice again at another opportunity. But what I'll say before we start this practice, start to set up your space in a way that you can really start to relax. So maybe dim your lights, maybe light a candle or some incense so that you've got some nice fragrance working through the room. And make sure that you're warm, because we will be working with that cooler, more static energy. So just a little bit about yin yoga. It is completely different to our yang energy. So yang is our fire, our heat, our sun. And the yin is the opposing energy, which is the stillness, the cool, sometimes connected to the moon. So in life, we want to be in a place where we have both yin and yang energy, so creating balance within the body and the mind. And if you think about the yin and yang sign, the symbol, the line that represents the mix of your yin and yang is very fluid. It's the ebb and flow of life, and we find that balance within that line. And within that space of the dark and the light, there is a spot of the opposing energy. So that kind of represents that you can't really have one energy without the other. So if you practice a lot of yang yoga, lots of kind of flowing and building heat in the body, then maybe this is a great opportunity for you to try something a little bit more still and a little bit more quiet, and to just see what arises in your body and your mind. So for this practice, I am using 2 folded yoga blankets. You can use any blankets, towels, just anything that will add a little bit more cushioning to your practice. And I'm going to use a cushion and a bolster. Now, if you don't have a bolster, you can actually make one through 2 bed pillows, and you can wrap them in a blanket. It just gives you that little bit of support. Alternatively, you can use a sofa cushion because it's got that sort of strength to it. And we'll just use this as a support to soften the body over that support, and it will give us a chance to work deeper and longer into the poses. So as I said, come with an open mind, and we will begin our practice to see what happens. Okay, so once you've got your props and you've got an environment that feels nice and comfortable, nice lighting, nice fragrances, then come down to your mat. And I'm going to start in seat, but on a cushion. So this just allows the hips to lift a little bit away from the mat. It allows the knees to soften down, and it just adds a little bit of comfort to your posture. So come down, it doesn't matter which leg is in front, finding that cross-legged position that feels good for you. And you can close down the eyes and just start to settle here. The hands can come palm face down onto the knees, just to keep that connection to your body. And just allow yourself to settle down through the seat bones, stacking one vertebrae on top of the other. Crown of the head reaches tall, so just finding some posture, some tall posture through the torso. And we'll spend a few moments here just connecting to our breath and our body. So as I said, Yin Yoga is much slower than our Vinyasa practice. So take the time. We've got time on our side with this practice. So just see how you feel as you center. Maybe ask yourself, how do I feel? Have I brought anything with me to my practice? And if there are circling thoughts, any worries, any stresses that are working through the mind, and just see if you can slowly start to quieten those thoughts. Is there anything that you can completely let go of and put down off the mat? That maybe after your practice you can decide whether you choose to pick those things back up or whether maybe they're not so relevant anymore. And as you start to quieten down those thoughts, just start to bring your awareness into your physical body, just checking in, noticing any areas that may be feeling a little bit tight, maybe holding some tension, maybe feeling a little bit weary and tired, and all of that is okay, but just bringing your awareness to those places and accepting. You can slowly start to connect to your breath, not controlling the breath in any way. We're just going to let our breath flow freely through this practice, so in its own natural way, but just allowing the breath to travel in through the nostrils and back out through the nostrils. And as you connect to this breath, just notice where the breath travels to in the body. And notice if there's any areas where the breath might feel a little bit tricky or sticky, maybe as it travels through those areas of tension or tightness. And as I said, all of that is okay. We're just bringing our awareness inwards, turning our attention to ourselves for this practice. We'll take a few more rounds of breath, just settling even further down through the seat bones. Still sitting up tall, shoulders relaxing down away from your ears as the crown of the head reaches high. Just seeing if you can draw the breath all the way down to the belly. Just allowing the belly to soften and expand as it fills with air. And relax back down to its neutral state as you exhale. So again, as I said previously in our practice, this belly breath is a really effective way to calm down the mind. So maybe you just notice if your thoughts have started to quieten, if the body is starting to feel a little bit more soft. And there's no right or wrong here. We're just acknowledging and accepting and listening. Okay, so when you're ready, you can gently blink your eyes back open. And we're going to move with care in a mindful way. So we're going to keep the hands on the knees and we'll just slowly start to rock the weight forwards, round in a circle and back. So making circles with the torso over the legs. Keep the seat bones grounded. We're just working through the sides of the torso, the spine, the waist. This is really nice if you've got a little bit of tension in the abdomen. Using the breath. Just easing out. And we'll take it in the other direction as well. So move as slowly or as fast as you want to. Just being mindful of the breath and how the breath feels in the body. So the breath is a really great indicator of how your body is feeling in a pose. And if at any point it feels constricted or tight, then just allow yourself to come away from the pose slightly. Okay, we'll come back to center. We're going to come to our first yin pose, which we're going to hold for about 3 minutes. and it is a forward fold. So we're going to keep our seat bones grounded onto some padding. So if you're not already on your cushion, then bring the cushion underneath you. And we're going to take our bolster, or your cushions or pillows, and place this support underneath your knees. Now this is going to allow the hamstrings and the legs to relax. So again, if you're feeling any pressure in the lower body, the abdomen, the hips, they can sometimes feel tight, especially if we're struggling with abdominal pains, any bloating. So allow the legs to completely soften down into this support that you're using. The feet can gently splay out to the sides. And we'll find that connection through the seat bones into the earth. Use an inhale to sit up tall. And as you exhale, we'll hinge from our hips over the legs for our seated forward fold. And you can bring the hands down to wherever they land. So maybe have a little play here, seeing what feels best for you, either palms facing up or palms facing down. See what allows the shoulders to soften. So moving into these postures with that mindful presence and really listening in. How does the body feel? And how does the breath feel? And as we hold our postures that little bit longer, allowing the body to soften, allow gravity to do the work. And we're just allowing the muscles and the joints and our fascia tissue to soften and rearrange through the body. So exploring into this pose, you can slowly start to draw the chin down towards the chest, allowing some space for the back of the neck, all the way down the vertebrae of the spine to the seat bones. Allow the breath to flow completely freely, and you can close your eyes. And as we start to bring in some stillness, stillness to the body, stillness to the mind, just see if you can stay present. And if at any point the hold becomes quite a lot, you can always ease out of the pose. You can always soften back in. We've got about another minute here. Maybe taking that as an opportunity to soften a little bit further through the body, soften a little bit further through the breath. We'll take 2 more rounds of breath. And then when you come to inhale again, we'll slowly start to move away from the pose. So take your time, slowly rolling back up, stacking one vertebra on top of the other, just taking a moment to acknowledge how you feel, how the body feels. Good. We're going to move our support out from underneath the legs. So take your time. You can shift that off to the side of your mat. And from here we will come over to an all fours position. So again, being mindful of the way you move in this practice, moving as slowly as you need to stay present, to stay connected. So when you come over to your all fours, just take a moment to align the wrists underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. And we'll just take a very gentle stretch here through our cat and cow. So spread your fingers, and as you inhale, start to lift the tail towards the sky. Drop your belly down and lift your gaze. So this is a really great stretch through the front of the abdomen, allowing any pressure to release off the belly. And as you exhale, we'll press into the mat, start to draw the tailbone down. As you press the mat away, roll through the spine. So arching the back, draw the chin to chest. Big stretch through the back of the body between the shoulder blades. We'll take a few rounds, so work with your inhale to drop the belly, lift the tail, lift the gaze. And then as you exhale, round through the back, cat, pose. Good, take a few more rounds with your breath. Moving as fast or as slow, just checking in again here, so seeing how the spine feels, see how the hips and shoulders feel. And again, there is no right or wrong. Just keeping your awareness on your body. And also your awareness on your thoughts as you move through this practice. Good. We're going to come to a twist over our support. So you can gently draw the seat bones back to the heels, walking the hands to the knees for a moment. So I'm going to show you how to get into this pose. So you can take your support lengthways down to the mat. We're going to work both sides through this pose, so it doesn't really matter which side you start on. I'm going to start with my left seat bone connected down to the support. So allowing that bolster to soften down into my left hip. And there's a few variations that you can take with the legs here. So you can either take deer legs or stag legs, where the bottom leg is parallel to the long edge of the mat and the top shin is parallel to the bottom of the mat, so you've got this staggered variation. The other option that you can take is to simply stack the knees, so one on top of the other, which feels a little bit softer for the hips and the outside, the IT band. So you can take whichever variation feels good for you, grounding down through your seat bones. And as you come into this pose again, we'll take an inhale to lengthen through the spine. And as you exhale, start to twist from the waist, taking the hands down either side of your bolster or support, and then softening the chest down. So again, as I said before, come into these postures mindfully and carefully and slowly. Take your time to soften. We'll spend about 3 minutes here, so there's no rush to come to any final posture. Finding that twisting through from the waist, allowing the heart space to melt down to your support. And if this is quite a long way to drop, if you're feeling like it's creating quite a bit of tension through the center of the body, you can add more height. So maybe another cushion, maybe a few, maybe another blanket. So giving yourself that extra bit of height at the start of this pose will ease you in a little bit more gently. And then through time, as gravity draws you further over that support, you can maybe gently start to release those extra props away. And as you melt over your support, you can take one side of the head down. Really allow yourself to melt. Allow the shape of your body to take the shape of that support. Taking any weight away from the upper body. And I'll let you know when we're about halfway in case you want to change the direction of your head on the bolster. Allow the shoulders to melt down either side of the chest and just take some deep breaths. accepting whatever arises in the body and the mind. As we take these longer holds, if your mind starts to feel a little bit agitated, anxious, then don't worry, just acknowledge how you feel. Maybe take a few breaths. You can always come back to your compassionate voice. We practiced in the previous episode a way of speaking to yourself in a kind and compassionate way. So if you're judging yourself and thinking, why can't I find stillness? Then maybe gently just speak to yourself in that empathetic way. Allow yourself the time. We're about halfway through this pose. So if you want to make any adjustments, you can. Maybe lowering a little bit further over your support, or maybe turning the side of your head. An opportunity to maybe venture further into the pose, or maybe soften away. We'll take 2 more rounds of breath where you are. Using your inhale, you'll slowly come back away from this pose. So gently pressing into the hands or the forearms. Walking the hands back towards your hips, gently peeling the chest away. And again, just take a moment to see how you feel, see how the physical and emotional body feels. And between these two sides, we're going to take a child's pose. So a really great posture for the hips, the back of the body. So when you're ready, you can press into the hands and lift your hips, returning back to your knees. So we'll start with our support. You can take the knees maybe a little bit wider than hip distance. Allow your big toes to touch behind you, and then soften the seat bones down towards the heels. Allowing that support to take the whole weight of your chest. We'll use the exhale to slowly walk the fingertips forward. And again, we're going to spend 3 minutes here, and I'll let you know when we're halfway. So maybe taking one side of the head down to your support, and then halfway round you can change the direction of your gaze. If you'd rather take the forehead down to the support, you can. Or you can put one hand and then the other, using the hands as a pillow. Again, if you need a little bit more height, you can always add props to bring the floor closer to you. So take the time to find this child's pose and allow this child's pose to be the comfiest child's pose you have ever taken. With every exhale, seat bones drawing down towards the heels, shoulders melting down either side of the chest. Allow the belly to completely soften here. Inhale still allows the belly to fill and expand. And the exhale just lets it return back to its neutral position. And this is a really great posture to lengthen through the back of the body, especially if you've got any pain or cramps through the lower back. taking any tension away from the belly. And if you are experiencing any pain, maybe see if you can start to deepen the breath to those areas. So using the breath to soften through the body. The breath is such an effective tool. We're at the halfway mark, so if you want to change anything about your child's pose, you can maybe release a little bit further down into the posture. You can completely take the bolster away and come all the way down to your forehead. If that feels better for you, you can change the direction of your head. But again, just checking in and seeing how the breath feels where you are. Is there anything that you can do to make the breath flow even more freely? And we'll take 2 more rounds of breath here in our child's pose. And then when you're ready, you can slowly use your inhale to press back into the hands and to move away from your pose. So walking the hands back towards your knees, rolling up away from your support or away from the mat. And again, just take a moment to sit up tall. Notice how the body feels, maybe taking any wiggles through the shoulders or the hips. We're going to take our twist over the bolster on the other side. So I'm going to turn around so that I'm still facing you. But bringing the bolster, the support, back to the opposite hip that you did the first time round. And finding that position of the legs either in your stag or with the knees stacked one on top of the other. So see what feels best for you, especially if you're feeling a little bit achy through the hips. You can always pop a support underneath your hips for a little bit of extra cushioning. So really find a way to make your postures feel as comfortable and as inviting as possible. Take a moment to set up here, using an inhale to lengthen through the spine and the torso. And then using your exhale to start to twist from your waist over that prop support. Taking a hand down either side. And again, maybe you take your time to come into this. It's quite a strong twist through the waist. So allow yourself to soften in your own time. Checking in with the breath. Using that as an indication of how the body is feeling. And again, we'll spend 3 minutes here and I'll let you know when we're about halfway. And if you're already down towards your support, you can take one side of the head down. Allowing the chest to feel completely held and supported. Shoulders rolling down. Palms can be down or up, depending on what feels good for you. Coming back to the breath, just noticing where the breath is flowing to in the body in this pose. And again, if your mind is darting all over the place and your thoughts are rolling in, then take a few breaths, just concentrating on the body and the breath. Or maybe bring in that compassionate voice again, speaking to yourself as if you would speak to a friend, a loved one. Giving yourself some reassurance that you are safe and that you are okay just as you are. Maybe bringing in some of those affirmations from our practice previously. I am enough. And we're about halfway through this pose. So maybe using that as an opportunity to make any amendments, any changes. You could turn the side of your head. You could soften maybe a little bit further into this pose, or maybe ease out. Seeing what your body needs. What do you need to be able to find that stillness? Stillness for the body and stillness for the mind. And we'll take 2 more rounds of breath where you are. When you're ready, on your inhale, take your time to gently press the hands into the earth, slowly peeling yourself away from that support. And again, take a moment to just be present, to feel what you need to feel, whatever arises. So we're going to come down onto our backs over our support, which is going to be a really nice way to relax through the abdomen and the lower back. So again, take your time. I'm just going to show you variation that we're going to take. So again, if you want that support and that padding underneath the seat bones, pop your cushion underneath. And then you're going to want your folded blankets here. Taking the folded blankets either side of your hips. And here we're going to come into our Supta Balakanasana, which is reclined butterfly. So drawing the knees up to the chest and then allowing the knees to drop down either side of the hips. The soles of the feet gently draw in together. So allowing these folded blankets to support the thighs, so bringing them up close to the thighs and just allow the knees to soften. Take a moment to ground down through the seat bones. And then when you're ready to come down to that support, take your time again, moving mindfully, seeing what allows the body to soften. You can come either down to your forearms or you can lower all the way over that support. Allowing the back of the head to be completely held. The hands can come down to the mat, either palms face down or you can turn the palms face up. So see what allows the shoulders to completely melt down either side of this support. So this is a really great posture to just completely surrender where you are. Allowing the knees to roll out and down into the earth. And allow the heart to open. Taking some deep breaths into that heart space. And allowing the body to melt and form over that support. And if at any point this does feel too open for you, you can slowly ease away from the support. Any point where the hips are feeling a little bit achy, you can draw the knees back in towards each other. And we'll be taking 3 minutes here again. So with every exhale, just see if you can connect back to that sense of calm, that sense of heaviness through the body. Allowing gravity to do all of the work here as you just connect to your breath and just connect to what arises. Knowing that your yoga mat has you, will support you through whatever comes up. And again, there's no rush to come to any specific pose or shape. Just allowing the time for the body to soften, for the mind to still. And as your support holds you, just notice how the front of the body feels, how the belly and the abdomen feels. Can you still send the breath all the way down to the belly? We're about halfway here, so if there's any changes you want to make, you can inquire into your body and mind, seeing if there's anything else that you need from this posture. And we'll take 2 more rounds of breath here. Just slowly bringing your awareness back to the seat bones grounding down into the earth. And then on your inhale, we'll slowly turn the palms down to the ground. And we'll start to lift, lifting the chest, maybe coming up onto your forearms first, and then pressing into the hands. And if your knees are still wide, then gently take the hands to the outside of the thighs and draw the knees up to center. Just take a moment, give yourself a hug, squeeze the knees into the chest and just drop your chin down towards the knees. Just a little bit of a hug of appreciation and gratitude for yourself, your body, bringing back that compassionate voice inside. Okay, we're going to come down to our final pose before our Shavasana, our relaxation. So popping any of your props to the side. We will be working with this bolster or support. So once you've come all the way down to your back, take your time, there's no rush. That's the beauty of yin practice. We can move as slowly as we need to. And when you come all the way down, just allow the lower back to melt down into the mat here. So maybe lifting the pelvis and then lowering the hips back down, keeping the knees bent. Allow the shoulders to melt down. We're going to take a supported bridge pose here. And there's two options. You can use your bolster or your pillows. If that's too high, then I would suggest use just one cushion. But see how it feels for your lower back. And sometimes that little bit of extra height is quite nice. But keeping your feet hip width apart, we'll use an inhale to press into the feet to gently lift the hips off the mat. And then you can slide either your bolster or your cushions underneath your lower back. So you're looking for the sacrum, which is the flat part of the very top of the bum. And when you find that place, take your time, have a little wiggle and an adjustment to make sure that it feels comfortable for you. And a supported bridge is a really great posture for just taking any weight away from the lower back, away from the abdomen. It allows the upper back and shoulders to completely melt down into the mat. So you can take the hands to wherever feels good for the shoulders again. So either taking the hands for the support, you can take them out by the sides with the palms facing up. You can even take them up overhead, bending at the elbows, creating a diamond shape with the hands. So again, seeing what feels good for you. And with the legs, you can slowly walk your heel-toe your feet a little bit wider than your hips, and then just gently let the knees knock in together in this constructive rest, sometimes known as. And here, just allow the blood to flow all the way down from the heart to your head. So this is a really calming inversion. It's a really great way to calm the mind, to calm the nervous system. And checking in, seeing how the body, the breath feels. Allowing any of that weight and tension to come away from the lower abdomen, the hips, the legs. So this is a really great pose to come to even if you're just feeling a lot of pain in the lower abdomen, in the bum. It's just a really great way to lift that area and take complete weight away. So we'll spend another couple of minutes here. With every exhale, just allow those shoulders to melt further and further down into the earth. Taking that slight tuck of the chin to the chest just to find length through the back of the neck. We're about halfway through this pose. You can stay exactly as you are if this is really doing it for you. Another variation is that you can heel-toe your feet back in hip width apart, and you can gently start to stack your knees up over the top of you. So this will just add a little bit more length to the lower back. Hands can be wherever they feel comfortable. You could explore with straightening the legs, maybe one and then the other. This is another great way to draw all of the blood and the sensations down from the feet, through the legs and hips, down through your heart. It's almost feeling quite weightless in the legs. Just an option, so see what feels good for you. You can always do this posture up against a wall as well, allowing the heels to be completely supported by a wall. And we'll take 2 more rounds of breath here. And when you're ready, if your legs are up to the sky, slowly bend them. Placing one foot down and then the other. To come to our final relaxation, our Shavasana, we'll press into the feet, slowly lift your hips, and then we'll push that support all the way down to underneath the knees. Allow the lower back to soften down into the mat. And you can come down, maybe lifting the hips and placing them back into the earth to find that length through the lower back. The knees can either knock back in together or they can gently splay out to the sides. So just allow this support to take any weight off the legs. Again, it's really great for the lower abdomen and the hips, the lower back. And you can take the hands down by the sides, palms face up. Closing down the eyes if they aren't already closed. And we'll just spend a few minutes here, allowing the breath to completely flow freely. Allowing that yoga mat to carry you. Knowing that whatever arises, you are in the right place, here and now. And staying completely as you are, melting down into the earth, just allowing yourself to be carried and held. Just start to deepen your breath, bringing your awareness back to your physical body. Maybe starting to bring in some movements, small movements at the start, so maybe rocking the head side to side or rolling out through the wrists. You can maybe draw the knees up towards the chest or take a full body stretch, reaching the hands up overhead. And in your own time, there's no rush. You can gently move that support away and roll to one side. Take a moment to gather your thoughts. And then when you're ready, you can press your top hand into the mat to gently lift you back up. Back to a cross-legged seat. And again, there's no rush. Keeping the eyes closed or heavy wherever you are. Taking the hands back down to the knees just to connect back to your body one last time here. And just take a few moments to just observe, to absorb this new energy from your practice. And to just notice how you feel. acknowledging what came up in your practice. And to seal this practice down, we will take our hands together at our heart center in Anjali Mudra. And I invite you to bow forwards to seal this practice, bowing forwards with gratitude for yourself, gratitude for this practice, and gratitude for this community. Thank you so much for joining me in this yin practice. Take a few moments to sit, to see how you feel, maybe journal some things down that came up, or just generally how you feel now, any challenges, anything that you enjoyed. It's not the easiest practice sitting with the stillness of our minds and the stillness of our bodies. But if you enjoyed it and you want to practice it again, then please feel free to come back to this exercise, this practice, and utilise it as much as you need to find some sense of calm and stillness through the body and mind. It's a great one to do just before you go to sleep, because it really connects back to that parasympathetic nervous system that we all really need to be connecting to a little bit more in our lives. So thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow for episode 6.